Hello. Uh, how do I want to start today? Hello, welcome to ohmTown on Twitch and on YouTube and in podcast form. And there's a Discord. I don't know. I'm everywhere, I guess. Today's episode is episode 135. It is for May 15th, 2022. And covers the last 24 hours worth of news. There are some really big events that are taking place, but I'm not going to talk about, I don't know, what some people are discussing domestic terrorism, and others are saying that it's just another shooting, as if we can just cast it aside as, a Saturday night. Well, I can have a lot to say about that, but for the news stream, I'm just going to talk about the news as it's written and not some of the other things that are the extent of which it goes well beyond having a holistic general news podcast and show. But I am happy to talk about it in other contexts. I don't want to, I'm unhappy about talking about it in the reality of what it is, which is just a horrible event that should never happen. And we here in America need to wrap our heads around mental health issues and gun violence and the apparent fascination with violence. That said, I play games that are violent and all of that, but never have I thought, you know what I need to do? I need to grab a gun and go shoot up a grocery store. Amongst other things, there have been multiple shootings now in the last 24 hours. So, can't really get into it. I don't want to get into it. But like I said, after the show, if I'm still going to stay, I may just move on and just do the show. That said, again, let me do this all over again. I am Mayor Watt. That is my site. It aggregates news 24 hours a day, aggregates them all into these 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And today's podcast and stream and YouTube is going to be for May 15th, 2022, episode 135. Thanks for coming if you're in my chat. If you're not in my chat, get in my chat. Come and talk over at Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmTown. And you can go over to YouTube and just type in ohmTown. You'll probably find my show, although there has been another ohmTown in existence, I suppose. But I've owned the domain ohmTown.com for longer than many people have even heard of YouTube. Okay, let's just get into today's show. I'm rambling because I am severely unfocused today. The first article for today is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Severe pilot shortage in the U.S. leaves airlines scrambling for solutions. Well, I know one of their solutions. They're raising prices. But so is everybody. I mean, there are a lot of prices just going through the roof for things. But we'll get into it as we go through the news. U.S. is facing its worst pilot shortage in recent memory, according to the author, forcing airlines to cut flights just as travelers are returning after more than 2 years of the COVID pandemic. Let's click that article and go over to CNBC, and Leslie Josephs is the author of this article. I keep forgetting to log into this account. The United States is facing its worst pilot shortage, and the crisis has the industry scrambling for solutions. At least one lawmaker is said to be considering legislation that could raise the federally mandated retirement age for airline pilots from 65 to 67 or higher to extend aviators' time in the skies. How about they don't want to do it? What is it? Federally mandated retirement age. If I want to retire, I'm going to retire. If I want to stay in the field, I can stay in the field even beyond 65, 67. I mean, there's professors that are still 75 years old and still teaching, for crying out loud, and they haven't been, in the workplace or anything outside of doing fundamental research. I mean, they're they're just, I mean, not just, but they're still teaching. So what does it matter? Retirement. Anyway, next you're going to hear somebody say that they're forced to go back to work. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to retire. I'm not probably, I'm reading it a certain way because it just seems absurd. If they want to keep on flying, they could have kept on flying. They don't want to fly. People don't want to fly. Pilot shortage for the industry is real, and most airlines are simply not going to be able to realize their capacity plans because there simply aren't enough pilots. Guess what's coming to planes? Automation. Just imagine that, not having to worry about pilots because it's automated. I mean, it's not like pilots climb out onto the wing and fix things as it goes. It could largely be automated if they focus on the right things, and that could lower the price. If you have the same size planes with half the volume in the plane, so people are happy and not feeling like cattle, maybe they'd fly more. I mean, I hate flying simply because I'm just crammed in with a bunch of other people, zero leg room, no real benefit unless you're in. Okay, Dreadnought. Automation is vulnerable to EMP. If there has ever been an EMP anywhere that's affected a flight, I'd like to know about it. But I mean, that's a pretty spectacular thing. That's what shielding is all about. And there isn't going to be anything that's even localized enough to impact a plane. Yeah, there could be things, but I don't think those two are really going to impact anything. Um, Plus, I mean, if it happens, that's part of the process of making sure that you just harden planes. You make sure that they're not going to fall prey to that kind of stuff. The human aspect of it is far more likely the root cause of anything that happens with a flight, for sure. But there are a lot of other reasons, mainly the human component of it, maintenance, primarily. And yeah, I think that's all part of the process of making sure that they can fly. They're mostly fly by wire right now. Pilots do, even of their own admission, they rarely do a lot on a flight. But yeah, I mean, coming up with a solution is well outside my wheelhouse, in terms of this, but uh, I can count on automation coming and taking jobs simply because of things like this. Um, and I think that it has its own things involved, and I think automation will eventually come to it. I would prefer to have more flights in an automated fashion, not having to focus on the human mashing the buttons to go up and down, and and have more legroom, lower the price, let more, because then you don't have this. And that happens with a lot of things where it's arcane and kept constrained because you have to go through an inordinate amount of one process or another. Um, and I've run across this countless times. I couldn't even recall how many times I've run across where a process is in place to prevent somebody from doing something. Like, you can't become an attorney without going through law school, because you can't take the bar unless you've been through an accredited law school. You can't just take the bar. Now, there's some change already taking place in that, and I can't believe I'm bringing up the Kardashians, but the reason why I would is because Kim Kardashian took the baby bar, and her answers are supposedly the premier response in the baby bar, but she's like imminently connected and coached and trained and stuff like that now. So I don't know the context of that, but my point is there are all kinds of gatekeeping that's involved here, and automation in a plane basically amounts to making sure that the artificial intelligence is trained adequately, and all the machinations are in place to facilitate taking control, landing the plane, anticipating problems, correcting for problems. Course corrections can be done automatically, but it's on how we train it. And so you can end up with somebody hacking it or something if security isn't part of it. So there's all kinds of reasons for it, but I just think that it's kind of weird that if you're going to if you're going to found this argument in retirement, which is what this is they're saying that we're gonna raise the retirement age so that we can get more pilots, but you have the retirement age for a reason, right? They put it in there for some rationale, and it might be because your twitch reflexes are a whole lot slower when you're older. Not everybody falls into that same uh, response rate, I guess, for lack of another term, as somebody who is 30 or 40 or 50, right? So when you're 65, 70 years old, your reflexes are a little bit slower. And if the argument is, well, we need pilots, they should probably be within the range of response time for being a pilot, which is why they have the retirement age for airline pilots. 2 years isn't going to make a difference, but now, because of the need, you suddenly throw down the arbitrary gatekeeping. It's very convenient, but the problem really is that they're either not getting paid enough, or there's countless. Dreadnought's basically saying the various reasons. Reflexes are slow, eyes deteriorate, sitting long hours at altitude can cause clots and just drain you. I mean, you become really tired just sitting. You have to get up and do stuff, and you can't do that in an airline cabin because you're now locked in it, because we can't have nice things because terrorists want to blow your plane up or fly it into buildings. And that gets into a whole other side channel of discussion. So, I just like many other things. And in my last stream, I think I mentioned that I challenge people. I have a long-term argument out there for people that I interact with, wherein I say, you come to me and tell me one thing that can't be taken over by technology, and I'll tell you how you're wrong. And nobody can come to me with any aspect of it. And there was one where I said, no, I don't think humans can be replaced in this particular context, and I won't share it because I leave it out there for everybody who might stumble across the podcast or the YouTube channel or here on Twitch. If you think that you know of some area where humans can't take it over, where technology can't take it over, I would like to know. And I'm not talking about like the immediate moment either. I'm talking about within a generation. we're at the precipice where pretty much everything can be taken over by technology, augmented, made better, even human existence. We would have a dramatically lower population around the world if not for technology, um, because we've short circuited the natural selection of things, um, and in the process, um, we are where we are. I guess I can't prove a negative, so I can't really say anything beyond that. Um, but yeah, our population would be dramatically lower if not for. That's not true. Dreadnought said art can't be done by tech. That's absolutely not true. Artificial intelligence is programmed by human beings, yes, but artificial intelligence can learn from its own development processes, and it can create art. And art is in the eye of the beholder. So while you may think, and I may think, that art can only be done by human beings, it is by far not the only thing. Um, Artificial intelligence, machine learning can definitely create art, and there's countless iterations of it out there. Art, music, um, speaking is now being done almost seamlessly, if not seamlessly, at the higher end of speaking. Vision is superior on the technology side. Yeah, well, well, and not necessarily. Even artificial intelligence can be applied to the to art appreciation, because Dreadnought says in chat, because if you're listening to the podcast and you don't see this, or if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you don't see the chat. um not not necessarily, you'll see it on the little on the little bottom right hand window. But so Dreadnought said art appreciation will always be a human thing. Depends on what you call appreciation, right? We're going to end up going down the rabbit hole of this because if I can quantify my qualified appreciation of art, right, I can turn it into a rank, then my artificial intelligence can learn to appreciate art, but it's going to come from my particular perspective when I code it. Or it can absorb the other evaluative measures from other art aficionados, let's say, and soak up all of that data and have a composite ability to quote unquote appreciate it. Because what is appreciation? The joy that one gets from it, or is it the quantification of whatever factors into a number scale, like what somebody does when they are coldly calculating somebody's Olympic event? They got um, tens across the board, except for one person who said that it's only a 3, right? Okay, so Dreadnought says machines can't tell art or how it makes you feel or any emotions it evokes. It invokes or evokes. Yes, evokes. Um, yeah, we're so again, it comes back to the quantification. Um, and you might be surprised. 20 years ago, about, I was able to use programs that had been created to ascertain the mood of text from the writer. And so you could evaluate if a paragraph of words was angry or happy or sad, or a few other elements. And so machines can definitely tell emotions, and but humans are notoriously bad at it too. Some people really appreciate certain art, others don't. I'm not a big fan of jazz, but jazz is a massive, massive sector of music. Massive. People spend $10,000 on a single speaker so that they can appreciate jazz more, right? People do the same and spend millions of dollars on what they think is art, but I don't really care for it. So it's a whole different thing. Yes. Sort of. We don't really know. We program artificial intelligence, but it doesn't necessarily turn into. Sorry, Dreadnought said machines have learned to mimic emotions, but not taught how to react in random situations to some degree. Well, I mean, artificial intelligence and machine learning is um, essentially humans telling tech how to act. But like other things have happened, wherein an intermediate language was created so that two artificial intelligence programs could speak to each other faster than what the developers created. Um, it stands to reason that our artificial intelligence capabilities will give them the same ability to uh, theoretically learn from others, just like kids. Children have innate emotional context, but they actually learn and respond to external forces. Um, when I was going through my sociology degree, there were videos that I saw when I was doing my own research in virtual reality, psychology, and phobia treatment using VR. Um, Children reacted to the experimenters' actions, and it happens immediately. And there's no reason why artificial intelligence wouldn't be able to do the exact same thing, because we are coded a certain way, just like software is. Um, but again, we don't know what the limits are of our ability to create what amounts to artificial life. So Dreadnought asks, if AI learned past us, won't that be a Terminator type scenario, um, where we are classed as destructive and useless? Yeah, 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 yes. As a matter of fact, it's a good possibility. But I hate to break it to you and everybody else who's listening out there. There is somebody out there that's doing exactly that, with the intent of it being our defenders on our side of the fence, right? So I've said this before, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. So if you develop a bot that goes out and eliminates them, what's to stop them from developing something to stop you? And everybody is calling each other a terrorist or a freedom fighter, and it's just kind of, it is how it is. We develop myriad ways to eliminate each other. And so if there is somebody out there that's building an AI to figure out where people are and eliminate them. Very twisted. And when I tell people that I think it's twisted, sociopathic, and I'm serious about it, they think that I'm being naive. Well, not that I'm trying to be human and progressive, but apparently I'm being naive and childish. Um, and that this is just the way things are. Well, no, we make things the way they are. We don't we're not prey to the way things are. We literally create the way things are. You know, the walls in my office are white because I've left them painted white. If I want them to be gray, I can paint them gray. Just like if I want to be, there's, always mental disorders, there's always uh, issues with the human condition that cause them to do bad things. But for much of it, it's a choice. Do we want to go and do these things? Sometimes there's a mental disconnect between the coping mechanisms and our actions. That one thing technology shouldn't be in charge of is kill scenarios. So Dreadnought said that one thing that technology shouldn't be in charge of is kill scenarios, as sometimes situations are not what they seem. Yeah. But that's not really the issue. There is, if you put humans into the line of fire, so to speak, then humans can be harmed. So that's why technology is always the better situation. if you can send in a bot to shut down somebody who's holding others hostage and not imperil anybody's health except for the person holding other people hostage, then that would be the best possible solution. Stop the hostage taker. Now, it can't always be done, using psychology and discussion and talking the person out of it. But yeah, this is definitely one of those conversations that could go down that rabbit hole. So let me go on with the rest of this news, and let's see if we can circle back around to it, because undoubtedly there is going to be more in the news that reaches back into this conversation. So this is an article over in Mobile. As inflation jolts grocery prices, shoppers say ouch. They're store hopping, cutting back on expensive items, and using more coupons. Applying the meat counter staff with homemade banana bread for favors is not out of the question, according to this article. I'm sure somebody has actually done it. Come on. This is a New York Times article. Let's see here. Maria Kramer, Christine Hauser, and Livia Albeck Ripka. Wow, it's a hell of a name. Susan Pollock, a property manager who was shopping one afternoon last week at a Costco in Marina Del Rey, California, said the startling price that she was startled that the price of the bulk pack of toilet paper had surged from $17 to $25. Wonderful. So now toilet paper is also in the mix. Basically, my claim here is that everybody took a hit, including the producers, except for certain products like paper products. Nobody really took a hit because they were producing like mad and people were purchasing like crazy for these things, because you really can't go without toilet paper and paper towels and other paper products. I mean, you can, but you have to change your lifestyle quite a bit or get other pieces of equipment to replace it. But in all cases, you still use it to some degree. So it says here, at her local kosher butcher shop, the prices were rising even higher, more than $200 for a 5-pack of short ribs. Wildly outrageous. We're never having short ribs again, she said. I reach back into my old bag of statements and say, this is all because there are profiteers trying to recover the losses that they suffered during the pandemic, or they have an understanding that there is a great amount of wealth out there that's still floating around, and it is in bank accounts, according to the M2 metric, which is the amount of money that's sitting in the banks. Pardon me one second. And they are aggregating all of that wealth into the top tier, right? So they aggregate it from all of the other sources that they are in control of, and they being the ultra wealthy and the ones that are in control, the stakeholders that are actually running the companies. They know that there's a lot of money out there because people were not able to go out as often, so they didn't spend as much, except when you look at a state like California. Obviously, if you're from another country, this may not matter to you, but if you look at your own country and the regions they're in, you may find a region like our California, and wherein they suddenly have almost I think it's let me see, let me make sure, because it was a really high number. Let me see, what was it? $97.5 billion. There you go. So California has a surplus now of $97.5 billion, which they were struggling prior, and now suddenly there's almost $100 billion in surplus. So where did all of that money come from? And you have to do a deeper dive, and I haven't done that deeper dive. But we are currently trending towards a recession, and we were in a recession in 2019, 2020, There was a little micro recession here in the United States because of the pandemic. Oil prices dropped to the floor. Now they're shooting through the roof, and it is the rebound from hitting that floor. And the last time it was this price, this ratio in gas prices and whatnot. And I'm prefacing all of this with I'm reaching back into my old statements. Gas prices are shooting through the roof, particularly diesel. It hasn't been like this since about 2008. And in that time, we had a recession and a market shock from the collapse of the economy in 2008. And then you go back a little bit further to the 70s and whatnot. So it happens again, and it'll happen in the future. One thing that I have discovered since following this line is all of these prices that are going up everywhere are always predicated on these increase in uh, costs associated with getting the product from the source to the retail outlet, whatever it is, right? So all of these, the price of oil and the fuel that's generated from it, and the various strata, all of that, all of this oil is the cause of this shock. And fuel increases with that oil price. Right now, the price of oil is about 60%, about 58% of what the cost of fuel is. The rest is other stuff, taxes and whatnot. But while I was doing this rooting around, I came to a conclusion that what this really is, let me close a window here. What this really is it is a byproduct of OPEC. So we buy a lot of oil from OPEC. So does everybody else. And if you go and look at the price of oil, immediately after the creation of OPEC, the volatility of oil has been tremendous, bouncing from somewhere around $180 a barrel down to $10 a barrel. At the bottom of the pandemic pricing, it was around $11 a barrel. And that volatility surged about 8 years after OPEC was created. And meanwhile, you have people that are spending money. You have investors, and you have countries, and the market is supposed to even the highs and lows. But really, what happened was OPEC and traders exacerbated this. And you can look up the information yourself. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. And oil hasn't been this price, yet we were paying $4, $3.50 or more, even when it was low. And it's all about profiteering off of this. Whenever there was a shock, there was a dramatic rebound in the price. So yeah, around April, March of 2020, the price was around, it reached as low as $11. And now we're at 123 or something like that. So it's pretty amazing that it's seen as just regular market machinations, but it's really pure profiteering. It's predatory pricing, and they're keeping their margins high and pricing out people, and the cost of goods sold everywhere is increasing because of one thing: oil. So what's going to happen? Greater automation. We're going to move to electric vehicles. We're going to remove the drivers because they're expensive. They're more expensive than pretty much any other element, the humans. This will continue. And I'm not talking about immediately. I'm talking about within 5 years. Within somebody's career, they're going to get phased out. And so you have to be aware of it if you're in that domain. And these high prices are going to be the enabling of these upcoming changes, because people are making their money. Then they're going to invest it in their enterprise. that investment's going to replace jobs through automation, and then the worker is gone. So we're all going to have to change our habits. I keep telling people, start growing fruit and vegetables in your basement. You can do microgreens really easy. Only takes a couple of days and you can start harvesting a crop. And it's real easy, small footprint, piece of cake. Opportunity cost is one of the biggest factors of it, though. If you can make more money by not doing it and going somewhere else, then so be it. So let's go on to the next article. You know what I haven't been doing? I've only gotten into this 2 articles and I haven't posted either of them into. And I've been talking for like 30 minutes, for crying out loud. Come on, Mayor Watt, do your job. Okay, there you go. There's both of them. Let's get into the next article. Elon Musk says Twitter's legal team told him he broke his NDA. This was yesterday, by the way. His NDA by revealing its sample size for fake accounts. It says 100. And I said yesterday that it's absurd that their sample accounts were only 100. Yeah. You've got millions of users supposedly, but 100 is supposed to be an adequate sample size. I don't buy it. That isn't statistically significant when you've got that much at your table. You need to sample a little bit more than that. Because if that particular sample is heavy in bots, you wouldn't really know it. So if you get 60 of them that are bots, that really isn't an adequate sample. It just happens to be that you landed in a sweet spot. So now you really, what it would cause is either if you go public announcing that, hey, 60 out of my 100 are bots, well, it's your account, or it just says a random account. This is actually the Twitter's account that they're going to be sampling from, which everybody subscribes to the Twitter account, right? If you're a bot, you want to know what's coming down from Twitter, so you subscribe to Twitter. So yeah, you're going to find a lot of bots in it, but you're going to find more bots in other people that are trying to fly under the radar. So they're not going to be in that Twitter account. It's so convoluted, so if I had a Twitter account where I was really engaged in Twitter, then I might actually buy followers, which are bots, just so that I can amp up my account. So you got to sample across Twitter, not in just one account. And you have to figure out a way that you can actually prove that they are bots. Just because I don't answer something, not a bot. So it says users are being manipulated by its algorithm that has potential bugs. But that resulted in a response. And there's a couple more about this in the news. And the way that I provide this is it's just a random grab of articles. And so they're not in a particular order, but there are other things about this Twitter interaction between Musk and Twitter. At any rate, says Twitter announced a deal to sell the company to Tesla founder on April 25th. But Musk said that on Friday that it was on hold until they verify what the reality is of the number of users that are on Twitter. So this article is over at businessinsider.com by Giota Man. And that's just an epic picture of Musk. And let's see here. In a tweet on Saturday, Musk said that his team would run its own random sample of 100 Twitter accounts, revealing on Twitter that he chose 100 random accounts to gauge the number of spam accounts as quote unquote. That is what Twitter uses to calculate less than 5% fake spam or duplicate accounts. I highly doubt that there are less than 5% fake spam or duplicate accounts. Plus, duplicate accounts that's really subjective. I could have 50 Twitter accounts, but they're used for different things. It doesn't make them duplicate or fake, or even spam. They're just for different purposes. And I suspect that a lot of that is like that. So let's see here. It says you're being his tweet from the tweet from Elon Musk says you are being manipulated by the algorithm in ways you don't realize. That's every website. You can't go to any website that provides news, that personalizes, quote unquote, personalizes information. You go to Google and you're being manipulated there because it's popularity driven, correlated to what generates the most value. So it isn't unadulterated information provided. What I created when I was in school working on my IT master's was because the results were based on an evaluation of your personality. And then I had a spectrum of information that was provided that was aligned with your personality and counter to your personality, because I wanted to challenge your preconceived notions of what you were searching for. Because in all ways, if you go and do a search for something, it's going to reinforce what you and the historical record of you and everybody else is searching for. That's what gets handed to you. And it's supposed to be pertinent to your needs. I'll just say it that way. So if it is weighted so that it aligns with what you are looking for, and it isn't something that is absolutely the fact, then you're being manipulated. And Facebook did something similar in that it completely manipulated the news and provided negative news to some people, positive news to other people, and watched as the negative or positive emotional contagion resulted in actions by those users that were manipulated back out into their feed. They started acting negatively or positively depending on if they received negative news or positive news. 700,000 users on Facebook, and nobody was ever told until after the fact. And that was just serendipity because somebody released the research paper that showed that they were manipulating people on Facebook. And it was Facebook researchers on the back end doing it. So it's not just Facebook. It's not just Twitter. It's not just anybody. It's everybody that has an algorithm that drives the news. Luckily, ohmTown doesn't use an algorithm. It just throws all of the information as it comes into these 6 categories, actually 50 channels. But you won't get manipulation from ohmTown. You won't get manipulation from many sites if they are aggregating and they don't use an algorithm to personalize your feed. You get whatever you get. But not if you have a board of trustees or a board of directors that are saying, you have to do this, you have to make more money, you have to keep on increasing conversion, et cetera, et cetera. You'll always get manipulation because there's a profit motive. So, and it's disingenuous for Elon Musk to say otherwise because he knows damn well that that's what's generating revenue. Manipulating with a fiscal responsibility. You have to make more money. Otherwise, the board will fire you and go find another CEO. Let's go on to the next article. Oil giant Aramco reports record first quarter as oil prices soar. You know how you get record profits? You raise your prices. And since you're part of an organization that controls most of the oil, yeah, guess what? You're going to get record oil prices. Amazing. Saudi Aramco reported more than 80% jump in profit, blowing past analysts' expectations and setting a new record for the company. Yeah, it's because you're the supplier. Come on, EV Tech. Let's get away from all of this garbage. I'm not interested in having to use oil just to get from point A to point B in the 21st century. Oil giant Aramco reported more than 80% jump in net profit Sunday, topping analysts' expectations and setting a new quarterly earnings record since its IPO. The Saudi Arabian behemoth said net income rose 82% to 39.5 billion in the first 3 months of the year, up from 21.7. Yeah, we're in the exit of a global pandemic, and now everybody is raising the prices. They are raising the prices so that they can recover the losses from the last 2 years of people not purchasing. So you tell me, it's just good business, or is it sociopathic predatory pricing? This is an article over at CNBC by Dan Murphy. I want to make sure that I said who that other one was from. Yeah, I did. Okay. So, and that's all there is to this one in the CNBC article. We're going to have to keep moving. Let me get moving a little bit faster because I've been kind of chill and chatting, which I'm cool with. But I want to get some of your news out there to you. The next article is over in the continuity report. Ukraine wins Eurovision Song Contest and UK places second. And the UK congratulated Ukraine on Twitter. Ukraine won the 2022 Eurovision Song Contest in Italy on Saturday night. The country was represented by hip-hop act Kalush Orchestra. And the song Stefania, I guess. A tribute to lead singer Ole Sayek's mother Stefania, which merges Ukrainian folklore with rap. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm going to go and check it out after my stream. But let's click the link, take you over to Variety and an article written by K.J. Yossman. And there you go. Not much else to say about it other than cool. The event was held in Turin, Italy, following the country's win in 2021 by Italian band Mainskin. Oh, and so there's talk about in 2023 Eurovision being held in Ukraine because you apparently do the contest in the previous winner's country. So it says both Ukraine, which is currently under siege from its neighbor Russia, and the UK were hotly tipped to make an appearance in the top three. 25 countries competed in total in the contest, which was hosted in the Italian city of Turin. Cool. So let's go on to the next article. Former eBay, I thought this one was kind of interesting because of the content of the title alone. Former eBay executive pleads guilty to harassment campaign involving live insects. God. eBay's former director of global resiliency, David Harville, pleaded guilty to taking part in a bizarre harassment campaign which involved sending live cockroaches, spiders, a bloody pig face mask, and other strange items to a Massachusetts couple, according to The Guardian. Harville is the last of 7 eBay employees to plead guilty to harassing and stalking the pair. 7 people, for crying out loud. Okay, let's click the link. It takes us over to The Verge, and Emma Roth is the author of the article. The strange harassment scheme targeted the publishers of a newsletter critical of eBay. Wow. I just don't know what to say other than that. Very fascinating. In 2020, the Department of Justice charged former eBay employees Harville, James Bay, I don't know, Baugh, Stephanie Pop, Brian Gilbert, Stephanie Stockwell, and Veronica Zia, and Philip Cook, with devising a harassment campaign targeting Ina and David Steiner, the publishers behind the e-commerce Bytes newsletter. The group's scheme was meant to intimidate the Steiners over the publication's negative coverage of eBay. It not only involved harassing the Steiners on Twitter and doxing their address online, but later escalated to mailing grotesque items to their home and in-person surveillance. Okay, that is some creepy stuff there. 5 felony counts during the video call with a Boston federal court judge on Thursday. Wow. Yeah, it's hard not to plead guilty when you have so much evidence, I'm sure. Faces up to 20 years in prison. His sentencing takes place on September 29th, 2022. Cook was subsequently sentenced to 18 months in prison. Maybe they didn't, maybe they just stalked them and only got 18 months. I have no idea. I'd have to go and look. I'd have to click the link and read more about it. But this is some seriously twisted stuff. If I talk about your business or whatever and it's negative, either it's factually incorrect and therefore it's slander or libel, depending on the mode in which the lies are stated. And you have the ability to take somebody to court, or it's pure opinion and they can say whatever they want to. I mean, it's as long as it isn't libel or slander. And when you're talking about a business, it's largely just opinion. Like I've had a situation where somebody used a fraudulent card to purchase something from a third party and sold it to me via eBay. And then nothing really happened because everything on my side was good faith. Everything on their side was apparently just fine, and absolutely nothing came of it. And so I'm sitting here going, oh, okay, I guess everything is cool. So there's these weird situations where, somebody might have a perception that there's something hinky going on. Now, I haven't even seen any of this newsletter, but I think it's pretty fascinating that somebody would go to these extents to harass somebody over seemingly just an opinion. I mean, it's sad that somebody might have an opinion that's so upsetting, but really, what was it? What is it that eBay is doing that's so bad that you have them um, highly represented in your newsletter? I think eBay is doing, I suppose, just fine. At least my anecdotal interactions are just fine. I've never had a problem with eBay. So let's continue on. The next article is over in the Smack Talk channel. This is Samsung prepares to. Oops. Hold on a second. I have to refresh that page. This next article is over in the Smack Talk channel. Samsung prepares to raise chip production prices by up to 20%. So here's some more profiteering. You got to make your money back for the losses that you suffered, even though everybody else suffered them as well. You've got to make your profit margins. Otherwise, your stakeholders don't get their blood money. So Samsung will seemingly join the rest of the chip production industry in increasing the price to make semiconductors as chip foundries raise the cost of manufacturing important components used in modern electronic devices. Yet again, the people that have the means are going to keep on taking. This is an article by Malcolm Owen over at Apple Insider. And, I mean, the cost of goods has been going up in a steady state, largely, depending on where you are, about 3%, unless you end up with hyperinflation somewhere in a country that's being rather exploitive, because you can bet your butt that the person that is making the most in all of this, all of these decisions and leadership across a country, they aren't using the same. They're using a gold toilet, whereas everybody else is trying to find a hole to pee in. That's kind of how things seem to work. There's people that are exploitive and taking, and it's sociopathic. I keep referring to this because that's exactly what it is. If you don't consider the rest of the human beings that you're impacting when you do this kind of stuff, raising the prices by 20% for crying out loud, all you're doing is you're hurting a whole ton of a bunch of people. I'll just put it, I can't put it any other way because I don't know how many people are being harmed by this. Yet for the last 20 years, you've never had to raise prices 20%, but suddenly you're raising prices 20%. So tell me, why is it that it's like that? Not because there's a ton of money, because the money had to come out somewhere. It had to come into the system somewhere. So if the money is out there, it's being used. You can't call it inflation because it's in circulation and it's being used. Just because there's copious amounts of it doesn't mean that it needs to be aggregated into a select few in the less than 1%. And that's exactly what's going on. You know, there has, yeah. So when I started looking into this, I started reading numbers from the Fed, and I started reading numbers from various other sources, but primarily the Fed. And this is only the US. I can't speak about other countries, but I would probably hazard a guess that it's similar because that's how people exploit other people. There's very few. Okay, so the top 1% of the United States holds so much value that it trumps the GDP of the United States, because the amount of wealth that's in stocks in the stock market trumps the GDP. So if everybody were to sell their shares, there would have to be more money than what's in the actual system. So how did all of these people get that level of aggregate wealth? Because it's not in the middle class anymore. It's in the 1% upper portion of the upper class. And that's just the monetary aspect of it, right? They've got so much wealth in stocks that it trumps the GDP of the nation. All they have to do is start liquidating their stocks, and they would have so much money that it would be consolidated. The national wealth is consolidated in a very select few. It's all kind of twisted, and you have to, it's so convoluted that you can't just make an easy picture of this. At least I've not been able to form an easy picture of this so that I can demonstrate it here on a stream. But it says the global semiconductor crisis has prompted many chipmaker firms to raise their prices through 2021 and 2022. On Friday, a report indicated that Samsung will finally follow the pack and issue its own price hikes. But why is this? Most of it is done through automation. So there's only people, and they're in clean rooms, and then they're in shipping and delivery. So most of it is all automated. So why is the price going up? Yeah, it's because there's somewhere down the line in the production side, in the raw material acquisition side, that's being exploitive, and it's moving up through the market. So let's continue on to the next article. Who has the right to speak to the Supreme Court? Gathering near homes of public officials is not a new trend. I've talked about this a few times. This article is over in the New York Times, and it's an opinion piece by Jamil Bowie, or Bowie, Bouie. I think it's Bowie. Anyway, in the 2 weeks since the anonymous source leaked Justice Samuel Alito's draft opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade, there have been several protests against conservative Supreme Court justices at their homes. Surprised. I'm just so surprised. One took place in front of the home of Brett Kavanaugh, who likes beer to the point where it brought tears to his eyes. One in front of Justice John Roberts, one in front of Alito himself. And so the reason why I brought this up is because it's asking the question, and I'll just read it right there while it's on the screen. The push to silence protesters over the Roe decision. When I clicked the link, the title was, who has the right to the Supreme Court, the right to talk to the Supreme Court. Well, let me make it abundantly clear. The purpose of the Supreme Court was to interpret law and to pass down an opinion on it for lower courts to either follow up and redress whatever opinion is coming from the Supreme Court, or they say this is reaffirmed by the Supreme Court, whatever it was that was being argued. What's not supposed to happen is either manipulation or stacking the courts in a certain way, conservative or liberal, either way. They're not supposed to be impacted by external opinions. They're supposed to base it off of the law itself. Argumentation and debate in the hearing regarding that particular case that is being sent before them. They're not supposed to be impacted by external sources. So regardless of protests in front of the Supreme Court or the justices' houses, they're not supposed to be influenced by the public. They're supposed to be impartial and assess the relevance of the case they're hearing to the historical context of the laws that are being argued. But when you have to reach back into 1400s law, common law, and hold a seance to figure out why somebody argued this in the 1600s, and all of this that is in that opinion, which is wildly absurd and shouldn't be applied to modern law, it should be that it is applied to the current society. And you don't have cultural relativism based on 1400 society. But that's not apparently what's happening. In the opinion, it reaches back into a bygone age where people of color weren't even accepted as human beings. They were treated as cattle and carried from one country to the Americas, and most of them dying along the way and just being thrown in the ocean. This is the reality of what is going on, that we're reaching back into time because we now have a regressive Supreme Court. Not progressive, not even a current Supreme Court. They're reaching back in time to argue their own perspective, not the law. Because Roe has been status quo for 40 plus years. So here in the statement, it says, then there's the claim from the Washington Post that this protest is the latest in a new trend, but protests of this sort go all the way back to the Revolutionary era, when crowds and mobs in Boston and other cities protested and even attacked British officials at their homes. In political mobs in American Revolution 1765 to 1776, the elder Arthur Schlesinger recounts the pillaging of Lieutenant Governor Hutchinson's mansion in Boston in August 1765 during the Stamp Act disorders. Yeah, because when people see that their government is changing in a way that is adverse to their existence, that's what happens, because there is no other, at least they don't perceive there being any other means of coping with this. You have to protest, you have to lash out. And it's largely because they're not being heard. Now, a small group of people that have the ideology that is the antithesis of society, I can see them talking amongst themselves and getting upset and whatnot. But when you look at society, the deeper you go into large conglomerations of people, the less, let me rephrase this. The more dense a population is, so the population density of a region, as you move away from the dense population, you end up with more conservative views. And largely these conservative views end up being interpreted as being antisocial. And a lot of people are going to get all flustered and upset about it. But antisocial doesn't mean that they hate people. It's that they don't want to be entrenched in population clusters. So they move out away to get away from people, arguably to get more freedoms, et cetera, et cetera. And it gets further and further away from controls, government controls. And so if you were to look at the United States, you would see that higher density populations are always democratic. They're always democratic. There might be some historical connotation to where you might find a densely populated Republican or conservative perspective. And even then, I've been able to suss out that it's really a small cluster in the greater mass that has control of that particular region and thus control of politics. And so it's in every, and in my research, nearly every case has been that way. Within a region, within a state, within a city, the most densely packed is Democrat or liberal. So when you have a lot of concentrated power in a select few, and you can manipulate it into being more towards one side or the other, and it's really a big spectrum, except that there's a very definitive line being drawn in all of these situations, you end up being able to foment discord or solve discord. You can either cause it or stop it. But in this particular case, they're changing the dynamic and taking rights away while people are saying that you're taking rights away. And then on the other side, they're saying you're taking our rights away and we had them for 40 years. Why are you taking rights away? It's just absurd. So it becomes a convoluted mess where one side is being gaslit by the other side, and the other side is not even getting more rights. They're taking rights away from somebody else. And that's what this amounts to. All in the name of their particular ideological bent, discounting the predominant number. And there are other countries that have this exact same scenario in place. The minority group actually controls the majority population because it's through violence and oppression. And that's where we are trending if society doesn't get a grip on this. And that's what this opinion is. So the push to silence protesters over the Roe decision. There shouldn't be silencing of the protesters because this is taking a right away, versus the other side of the coin where people are protesting because they have to wear a mask so that it doesn't kill people when you exhale. There's a big difference. This is the Roe decision is for 40 years, it's been giving control over one's own body. Versus if I give you if I say, go ahead, you don't have to wear a mask at any time during the pandemic, you end up with what's going on in other countries where they weren't wearing a mask and it proliferated even faster than the United States. And then when they actually implemented it, it got better in those other countries. And meanwhile, it flourished here in the United States. It's just so bananas because when you think about it, it's antisocial to exhale on somebody and you kill them with COVID. And all of this is all interrelated. That's why I say that this isn't just in a silo. You know, you can argue this in a silo, but then it discounts everything else that influences this. People are burnt out with their rights being taken away, while others are saying that their rights are being taken away, but it's not even a right that's being taken away. Might be convoluted to the point of being distracting at this point, what I'm talking about. So let's continue on. Let's take a break from this soapbox. Okay, so the next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. CNN accidentally sent welcome blankets to employees who had been laid off after the CNN streaming service flopped. And if you don't know about this, CNN Plus spun up, spent a whole bunch of money, and then died on the vine in short order. Mainly because I think that they didn't have any value add there. And so it collapsed. Well, people were fired or their contracts were paid off and they didn't have a show anymore. And some of the people who were laid off actually got a welcome blanket. But what are you going to do with all kinds of CNN Plus material? You might as well just give it out. They should have donated it, but whatever. Let's click the link and continue on. This is a Business Insider article by Katie Belovic. And let's see here. This is an incredible time to be part of CNN, one note said per the Wall Street Journal. Build relationships and take time to connect with colleagues and learn so that you make the most of your time here. Well, CNN spent as much as $250 million on the launch and saw a meager audience engagement out of the gate, never surpassing 10,000 viewers at any given time. Yeah, again, it's because I did not see anything of value that I couldn't get somewhere else. Heck, I think my show gave more value add than anything that CNN Plus had. It says, this was all ego, all a power play for a bigger job or independence, hubris, nothing more, one former Warner Media exec said of Zucker. Insider previously reported, quote, the only people who ever thought this was a good idea either worked at CNN or were trying to get CNN Plus to hire them. Nobody else. Yeah, probably. This happens a lot in organizations. Somebody comes up with an idea. It's very well driven. There's a lot of cheerleaders. There's a lot of change agents that want to get on board. Nobody wants to say no because they think that they can grab the brass ring. And you end up falling on your face when there isn't anything of value there. So let's keep on trucking. The next article is in the Word in Tech. And the iPod is dead. Long live the iPhone. I'm surprised that the iPod existed this long. Honestly, as soon as the iPhone came into existence, I figured the market was going to change and drive this off the cliff really fast. But it did not. It stayed for quite some time. And the iPod died over this weekend, or over this last week. And pour one out for the iPod, the beautiful little gadget of my teenage dreams. While Apple finally discontinued the iPod model, the last iPod model this week, the pod lives on in the digital audio medium we all obsess over, and that's podcasts. So let's click that link. And Ariel Shapiro is the author of this article over at The Verge. And I always thought that the iPod was great until the iPhone really took over. And now you can get this one device, the iPhone, that does everything. I got rid of my cameras. The only reason why I use that camera right there is because I can't just put my phone there. I actually use my phone as a reference tool. I have it on me all the time. And so, I've got screens all around me in my phone. I can get instant messages in regards to my stream and to other things, alerts and whatever. So I got rid of my iPod a long time ago. A friend of mine actually has an iPod that he swapped out the hard drive for an SSD. And loves it, still digs it. The old click wheel side kind of iPod. So they were great devices, but their time has come. Let's see. iPod was never really the format where the podcast flourished. That's true. That would be the smartphone. But at the time podcasts were getting started, the iPod was pretty much the only game in town. Dreadnought still remembers Walkman. Yep, I still remember the Walkman as well. How about the Discman? The Sony Discman. That thing, you were supposed to be able to like run with it, but no, it would skip. Maybe I just was a hard runner, but the Discman used CDs, um, Walkman, and cassette tapes. And when I was younger, I actually had an 8-track. It wasn't mine. It was actually like my dad's, who gave it to my older brother, and then I started using it. Oh yeah, worst CD player ever. Yeah, yeah. But it fit the bill. I still have CDs, even though I no longer purchase CDs. I still have them in a box in my garage, so I'm probably going to just donate them because they're just taking up space. I never use them. I've purchased everything again, which that drives me nuts. In any other format, right? If I buy a book, then if I want that book as a ebook, then I have to buy the ebook, and if I want it as an audiobook, I have to buy the audiobook. Why not just sell me the audiobook and then I get the other two versions of it? Well, I don't even want the printed version of a book anymore. But I've got people around me that swear for physical media, but I always say physical media is dead, folks. Don't even bother. Um, but some people really love records. Vinyl is all the rage right now. So yeah, the iPod is dead. Now pretty much everybody uses a phone or iPad or tablet in some way. So let's continue on. The next article is related to yesterday's stream, only because it popped up again, and I said, this is kind of interesting because yesterday it was a scathing review of the Time Traveler's Wife as being basically garbage, in that there's nothing of value there, really ever. But there's like one actor that's really good. I don't remember who it was. But this article is saying The Time Traveler's Wife is a new HBO series based on the best-selling sci-fi romance novel, and here's how to watch it. So I'm just going to click the link, and it'll take us over to Business Insider and an article written by Angela Tricarico. Maybe it's Tricarico. Wow, I'm just ruining this. Anyway, let's scroll down a little bit because it's on HBO. It's called The Time Traveler's Wife, and it premieres on May 15th. And that is today, right? 9 p.m. Eastern. So wherever you might be, that's where it is. And the new show is the second adaptation of Audrey Niffenegger's 2003 best-selling novel of the same name. So I've heard of The Time Traveler's Wife, and there was a movie about it, and there it talks about it right there in the next line. The first was a 2009 movie starring Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana. And let's see, instruction manual on how to watch. Oh my, yeah. Hey now, sometimes you need it. I'll give you a little story real quick here. So I have been watching, I'm fascinated with this awesome series called Vera, Vera. It's basically a murder mystery show. Each episode is in a can, or bottle episode as it's referred to sometimes. So it's a bottle episode. You watch the show, and just like Star Trek, basically, if you're more aligned with that. So the show basically follows major crimes investigator, so murders and stuff like that, and it walks through all of this. And the lead is named Vera. Well, she is awesome. The acting is spectacular. The storylines are awesome, because they're based off of books, and it's just an amazing show, right? So I'm 7 years into an 11-year-old show, and the next season is on some other channel where I have to subscribe to a different app, and there's only four episodes per season. So I'm 3 episodes into it, and suddenly it moves me back to the old place for the movie, or for the show, for that one episode. And then I have to move to a different app and pay that license or that fee for that set of episodes. And now I'm back in season 9 at the end of season 9, watching on the original app. And for whatever reason, I I'm paying now for 3 different services. Oh, my stream just died again. So I don't know if you're still getting this. Um, but it says that it's going out, but my audio just died, so it might be everything. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to continue on. The next article is when the iPhone goes USB-C. Oh, weird. It dropped to 0, and then it went to 12,000 kilobits per second, and now it's at 6,200 as normal. I don't know what's going on. This has been an ongoing problem for me, but it doesn't appear to be part of my internet. So it's not my internet problem, because I have a service. It's really built into my firewall that is always watching the stream, the path of data. And so if there is a split or something goes down, I am always pinging out. I try not to get too technical in the streams, but I'm always monitoring my bandwidth, so I know when there is a problem. And then I fail over to a different internet service, so everything should be working just fine. But for some reason, the ingest server at Twitch sometimes just says, "I'm tired of your soapboxing," I guess. At any rate, let's get back to the news. This next article is in the Smack Talk channel, and it is about the USB-C in iPhones. So yesterday and the day before, I think, I mentioned that Ming-Chi Kuo is this aficionado of news for Apple, must be getting insider information from somewhere. Regardless of that, the USB-C connector in my iPad has been of immense help in me being able to plug into things, because I've been switching over to USB-C. But my phone and other devices are still Lightning. Well, hopefully the iPhone is going to switch over to USB-C, and if that happens, then pretty much everything is going to be USB-C. Apple will do away with everything that isn't USB-C. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. So Dreadnought says it may be Twitch. Yeah. They're apparently banning and watching a lot more. Oh, interesting. I don't know. Yeah, maybe they don't like my content. No, I'm sure that they're just fine. And if you're new to my chat, welcome. I have no idea who is really in my chat, because my chat window says that there's like 15 people in here. And it's the one that I'm looking at from Twitch, but that's not the real number apparently. So I don't really know. So if you're in my chat, say hello so I know you're here. Be sure to follow if you've never followed me. And thank you for coming. It's basically a news show for an hour, but I've been running this one for more than an hour now already. And I'm not quite done with the news, because I jump up on a soapbox and I talk about it from my particular perspective, which encompasses business, technology, and society into my commentary of the news. But I introduce everybody to a whole broad swath of news, not just a particular subject. So check it out. You go over to ohmTown.com and you'll find out more article wise, but I don't post the podcast over there. I don't post the YouTube channel over there. I don't post the stream over there, and I really should. Anyway, let's continue on. It says here, the article says, when the iPhone goes USB-C, other Lightning accessories will too, says Quo. And I'll just click that, go over to the source. And this is an article over at appleinsider.com by Malcolm Owen. So I don't know if I should read all of your comments, Dreadnought. I don't know if you want me to, is what I'm saying. So a streamer was banned? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. You can incite people pretty easily by making a comment that lacks context. And that's why I say all the time that context matters. That's a phrase that I use every day in my professional existence. When I'm not streaming, and even here now, I say, okay, cool. So if you don't mind, then I'll say it when you type it. So this article is over at Apple Insider by Malcolm Owen, and it talks about Ming-Chi Kuo saying that when iPhone goes USB, everything else will go. I totally agree. This really shouldn't be a massive news article, but it is, and so I'm reporting it. I love the idea of MagSafe coming back. I read a report and I spoke about it, about MagSafe technology being deployed across EVs in coming years, which would be spectacular. And I'm getting sidetracked here, but I would love for EVs to have fast swap battery packs so that you can just pull into a gas station and there's a process there where everybody is standardized around a type of battery pack, and in time you can upgrade. If you make the process somewhat future proof. The real problem is going to be when all of these cars that are out there have dying battery packs, that technology is going to go away in time. And so it's going to be astronomically expensive, because right now it costs 25 grand to swap out the battery sled for a Tesla. So at least that's what I've read. If the prices fluctuate, then I understand the prices fluctuate, but it's going to be dramatically expensive in the future as this technology gets phased out. Like chargers now. Oh, I don't have my charger in front of me. So the little wall wart that you plug into the wall is already changing to GAN chargers, because they afford more power and stay cooler because of the technology. So even our wall warts have changed in technology, and that migrates over to other battery packs, charging systems, etc. So it's one of the reasons why I think that we need to standardize around a certain thing and stick to it for 20 years while we evolve the technology and then we phase out. That's kind of how what Apple has been doing, right? So 20 years ago, it was the 40 pin connector, it was ginormous. And then it became the lightning connector, and now it's the USB-C. And that's just the way that it is. But when you do it really fast, then you're going to end up paying just a massive price for being an early adopter. And this is EVs is one of the things that I've kind of resisted, because what I want is a standardized thing like USB-C and let it take over. And that's just, I think this is great. So, and like the mini jack, everybody's going to rail against this, and then suddenly everybody's going to be doing it, and nobody's going to go, oh, sorry about that, Apple, or sorry about that, whoever it is, that really was an early adopter. No. They're just going to silently, do away with the mini jack, like what's going on with which one was it? Just recently, another phone lost its mini jack after saying, I think it was Samsung, or Google. I'm not sure. I can't remember right now. But anyway, railed against Apple for burning the mini jack, and then now they're doing it. So why? Because the technology has evolved enough, and everybody's ready to switch over to wireless headphones. So let's keep on going. Technology waits for nobody. So let's keep moving forward, just like the show. This next article is over on the Hatch Ideas channel. The dramatic untold story of what happened inside Apple after Steve Jobs died and Tim Cook and Johnny Ive took over is told in a new book. I have not read this. This article is over at Business Insider, written by Jonathan A. Nee. I wonder if the K is silent. Is it Knee? Anyway, my voice got really high there. Sorry about that. There's probably dolphins beaching off the coast here. When the Apple founder and impresario, really, he's an impresario? All right. Steve Jobs died in 2011. There are two competing narratives that dominated the conventional wisdom about the prospects of the company. One second. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Some were sure that without the larger-than-life leader who had guided Apple's breathtaking turnaround since his dramatic return to the company in 1997. By the way, Apple was actually on the verge of imploding. They got a kind of like a bridge loan from Microsoft that turned a massive profit for Microsoft, and that was actually due to anti-competitive litigation brought on by the Fed government against Microsoft for its monopolistic practices. This is way back. You have to get into the way back machine and look back 35 years or so. And then Jobs returns and does a bunch of changes, and lo and behold, you have a $1 trillion company today. And all of this, I guess this book is going to talk about all of that kind of stuff. 15 years after the introduction of the iPhone, that one product continues to represent a majority of the company's revenue, and despite billions spent on to transform the car and healthcare, no truly breakthrough new product has emerged. No, but they're kind of insinuating themselves into healthcare quite a great bit. And regardless, despite billions spent to transform the car and healthcare, hate to break it to the writer of this, but they're doing fundamental research inside their hallowed halls. It's going to take billions. It takes billions to produce anything when you're doing fundamental research. Now look at the M chips, the new processors from Apple. They are fundamentally different, streamlined to the point where they are taking on GPU powered systems at the same level. And it is a spectacular piece of fundamental research turned into a product. Now, it's wildly expensive to deploy that new tech, but you won't have to upgrade a computer for 10 years once you have something like the studio machines. So it is an amazing piece of engineering. So I could care less how many billions they spend as long as it creates a very effective, highly competitive product and thus makes everybody else lower their prices and give more benefit to the consumer. So more power to Apple. But this book goes into greater detail. So definitely go over to Business Insider and read the rest of this article. Talks about what happened after Steve Jobs died and Tim Cook and Johnny Ive took over. They'll keep on going. They'll go into healthcare more and more. I love my watch. Talking to my phone allows me to track everything. And then eventually, when I get my tonal, I'll be getting even more metrics and integrating it into my health app. I just love the idea of getting metrics. So let them keep on do the slow crawl. I'll stay with them all the while. That said, if something in the Android side comes along that I think has greater value and efficacy, then I'll shift over to that. I'm not really beholden to any one line of tech. I mean, if you look in my office, you're you'd be astonished by what's actually here. So, okay, so the next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel, and it is The Great Resignation May Be Here to Stay. I'm just going to click the link and take us over there. I've been running really long for today's show. So this will probably be the first show out of 135 that I'll have to edit just to keep it somewhat approachable. So this article is over at Business Insider. Matt Turner and Jordan Parker Erb is the author of it, and it says the Great Resignation may be here to stay. So they say on their agenda is it's not just a phase, the Great Resignation may never end. Insiders say Google Cloud is becoming a stodgy SAP 2.0 under Thomas Kurian. And growth hedge funds, they're talking about a lot of stuff. Growth hedge funds had a disastrous April, and Y Combinator, which I haven't had anything on my radar with Y Combinator in so long that I guess they're still here. So let's see here. Behind the scenes. No, I'm not sure what's going on here. This is a different article than what I am used to from Business Insider. Let's see if I can find this segment about. There we go. Brace yourself for the forever resignation. You're a year into the Great Resignation and positions are still going unfilled. Yeah, that's because the employees are unfulfilled. Projects are delayed, recruiting costs and salaries have gone through the roof. I haven't seen salaries going through the roof. Maybe in some sectors, law in particular. Executives across corporate America are staring at the sky-high attrition rates and asking, when in the world is this going to end? It's going to end when employees are treated with respect and not just as cattle. When you have the income disparity between the highest and lowest of 4,000%, you can pretty much count on people being a little disgruntled, but then they're characterized as disgruntled. Pay people more so that they can keep up with inflation, for crying out loud. 1.5% cost of living increases when inflation is 11%, and the reality is it's 11%. Not the 5 or 8 or 7, whatever number they're throwing around currently. But a new study from research firm Gartner shows that employers may have to brace themselves for a new reality that the Great Resignation is here to stay. Now, people will resign if they don't think that they're getting anything out of it. And it's the bed that was made by corporate America and maybe corporations everywhere. If you're not loyal to your employees, then why should your employees be loyal to you? You buttered your bread. Let's continue on to the next article. Auto supplier Magna is uniquely positioned to benefit from electric pickups. Canada-based Magna is producing the battery enclosures that house the lithium-ion batteries of the Ford F-150 Lightning and Hummer EV pickups. I heard somebody say that the Hummer EV was actually dialed down because it was too powerful for the people that were test driving it. In one situation, I don't have the full context of that, but it's apparently a beast of a machine, and I dig it. I mean, that thing just looks pretty damn awesome. So this is an article over at CNBC by Michael Wayland. If you are interested in investing in a company, you might want to look up Magna International. They offer a particular solution, and I need to sign into this, but I can't do it. I keep forgetting to do it while I'm on before my stream. Anyway, and I don't know if the cookie will time out anyway, but at any rate. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas. Elon Musk called Twitter's newsfeed algorithms manipulative, prompting a reply from founder Jack Dorsey, who disagreed with the claim. This is in reference to that previous article, and kind of the order was flip-flopped because of the way that I grabbed my news today. But let's click the link. It takes us over to Business Insider, and Ryan Hogg is the author of this article. So Jack Dorsey disagrees with Elon Musk's perception that the algorithm at Twitter is manipulative, and really it's not. I don't think. Based on my interactions, it's basically taking what you have tagged as your areas of interest and thrown you some news, whatever it might be. Um, and but then again, you don't know what you don't know, so you might be getting manipulated. You just don't know it. But Musk said you're being manipulated by the algorithm in ways you don't realize. Yeah, everybody is, to some degree. Uh, I don't see it; it's not obvious. And I do have multiple Twitter accounts because I am using each one for a particular purpose. I'm in control of several. So one for ohmTown, for instance, one for my business, that is personal, and I compartmentalize how I use it. So in those different contexts, I get specific information because I have wrapped them in selections that say this is what I'm interested in. I'm not sure. And it seems weird for me to say that Elon Musk didn't recognize that as being the state of things. But I'm really curious what he thinks is being manipulated. I certainly don't want BS tweets. I don't want lies. I don't want somebody's half truths. I want factual information, or I want opinion from somebody because I value their particular opinion. Um, I seem to be getting that. Um, and when I see a tweet that makes me go, well, that person is out and out lying, I just ignore it. So, but critical thinking isn't necessarily everybody's strong suit. So, what do you think? Do you think you're being manipulated by the algorithm on Twitter? I think it's just basically a flow of thought experiment in digital form. Twitter allows anybody to say anything, and unless you violate the terms of use, which means that you're really hedging towards outlandish, you're left alone. You know, even some people leverage Twitter to use their social army to direct people, and that isn't banned. So I really don't know what's going on with Twitter. This is a Hatch Ideas channel and article that was aggregated from Business Insider. I'm just gonna throw that and click the link. Takes us over to Business Insider so that you can see what's going on. I had said at the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine that what's going to ultimately happen with all of the controls that are being put in place is that there's going to be some damage to the general population of Russia. And I had come to the conclusion that I think that most Russians just want to watch on Twitch and play their games and subscribe to Netflix and stream whatever they want, right? And that they are going to pay the price for oligarch decisions. Um, there's a lot of people that are giving evidence that there are a whole lot of people in Russia that are buying into Putin's claims. So, not everybody is without sidelong glances like, what? But in this particular instance, this person is going to lose $500,000 a year because YouTube has banned Russia from getting any of the money through its payment system. So this is an article by Ryan Hogg and Carissa Chong, and I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, so let me know if I am. And again, it's over at Business Insider, and the title of this article is "I'll lose $500,000 a year thanks to YouTube's Russian ad ban," says this YouTuber who is scrambling to shift his followers onto social platforms not hit by Western sanctions. So that's going to be largely impossible, although because he streams to a domestic population, VK will probably benefit from this transition over. Let's scroll down a little bit and see. So he says that or this article says that he's got 5.4 million subscribers, and is going to be taking a hit because of these sanctions on YouTube. So really, who's paying the price here? Because while he's losing what amounts to $576,000 in 2021, according to his tax records that he shared with Business Insider, he's not an oligarch. So he's losing a completely different amount of money to his existence versus the billionaires that are controlling all of this invasion. It says his recent video posted on March 14th urged viewers to join him on platforms like VK and Telegram, which aren't subject to Western bans and sanctions. He also opened a crypto wallet to ask for donations. And yeah, I don't think that the situation is fair, because it's going to be the independent and middle class that's going to suffer the most because of oligarch challenges to a sovereign country. So my claim is still solid. I think that the injustice is really to the people and to Ukraine. Without a doubt, Ukraine is the victim of billionaires wanting to be even more deeper into being a billionaire. They want control. They want power. So anyway, let's continue on. The final article of today is in the continuity report, and this is an article that says, "Meet Vecna." Stranger Things stars David Harbour and Joe Keery tease season 4 villain at premiere. So this is really interesting because I'm going to click the link. I haven't read the article, but I know who Vecna is. And I want to see if they mention it here in this article. So this is a Variety.com article by Antonio Ferme, I guess, Ferme. They're Stranger Things. So season 4 is coming up on us, and it says, in the case of upcoming 4th season of Stranger Things, fans will be introduced to Vecna, a ghoulish, powerful lich that slithers out from the upside down to wreak havoc on Hawkins. So I'm going to scroll down and just look for one key thing here. And I don't see it so far. I still don't see it. Might be in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Ta-da! Wow. That took a really long time to find out about this. So it says Dustin, Mike Finwolf, Dustin, Mike, and then in brackets it says Finn Wolfhard and Will, Noah Schnapp, I think, might be Schnapp. I don't know how to pronounce that last name without a German inflection, are now new members of the Hellfire Club, Hawkins High's Dungeons and Dragons crew. Okay, so that's all that they make mention of this and Vecna. So let's see if it says it further down. Nope, it doesn't say it anywhere. So on May 27th is when Stranger Things 4 will debut. That's awesome. I'm going to be watching this. Maybe we can have a watch party and everybody watch it together. But so Vecna comes from Dungeons and Dragons. This is old school Dungeons and Dragons. So Vecna was a wizard that turned into a lich that lost his hand and his eye, and they became elements in Dungeons and Dragons artifacts that are very powerful. To utilize them, you have to either cut off your hand or plop out your eye and attach it. And then when you attach the whatever element, either the eye or the hand, it'll slowly make you evil and take over your body. It's the hand of Vecna and the eye of Vecna, and together they're really powerful, but individually they give you really powerful spells. At any rate, it's interesting that they don't even mention it, except for this tiny little element here as being part of the D&D club, but it's from Dungeons and Dragons. Um, and I think it's awesome. I'm really interested in the embodiment of this because I used to be a Dungeons and Dragons player uh, all the time. I mean, I wish that I could still play it, but I don't know anybody that I can play Dungeons and Dragons with. My circle of friends just they don't play Dungeons and Dragons anymore. If they ever did, I don't think I've ever asked anybody if they've played it. But at any rate, um, yeah, I love the idea of Vecna coming into existence in Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is really interesting because the Upside Down is the same as the real world, except it's like horrifically dark on the other side. Um, and there's like really evil things going on. But supposedly, things that are on this side are on that side. So I want to see more world building, and I haven't looked into it yet. I wonder if there is more written somewhere else, um, and not just the shows. So to give me greater context, it says the Upside Down has been this wild west world where there are creatures running around, there's violence, but we've never seen something as calculatedly psychologically evil as this. That's exciting because it is a big bad that we've needed in the series. I don't know about that. The Demogorgon was pretty bad. Um, at any rate, we will see coming up. Let's see. Let me scroll down again. So it will debut on Netflix May 27th. There you go. So again, maybe we can watch it all together. I wouldn't be able to stream the audio or the video, but we could probably riff it. Maybe, sort of. All right, y'all. Thank you very much for coming to another episode, very long episode of the Daily News Show at ohmTown. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not sure what time anymore. I've been shooting for 1 o'clock on the weekends, 11 o'clock during the day. I still have about a week and a half before I can really lean into long daily streams. But we'll go from there. And thanks again. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.